Okay, so recently I've been noticing that a lot of people really seem to enjoy these videos where different content creators, usually from the game development part of YouTube, make progress videos showing what they've done over the last, 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, however long they've been into game development or coding for. And I've been asked this a lot on stream to make a video on this or just discuss this topic. So I thought today I'd make a video dedicated to, showing you the progress I've made from my old projects to my new ones, talking about how I learned stuff, what resources I used, how I started and how I got to where I am now and the plans for the future. There's going to be quite a lot of different things covered in this video. It's obviously not a tutorial, but I really hope you enjoy the video. For those of you who do already watch my content, and for those of you who don't, welcome. Let's get into the video now. Okay, so I'd say the start of my game development journey started back in 2011 when Skyrim was released, and that was when I first got interested actually in computers themselves. I'd used computers before and played video games, obviously, but I was never actually interested in, how they worked or, how people made games. I just assumed these games randomly popped out of nowhere, I didn't care, really. I had the games to play, so, I was happy with that. And I bought Skyrim, or at least I convinced my parents to buy me Skyrim because I was too young at the time, and they bought me it. I think it was a 15, but anyway. They got Skyrim, and just like me or them, none of us knew about, computer specs or anything, and we tried running it on my parents' laptop that I played on. And it didn't run. It crashed or froze, or it just didn't work. And I was very sad. So I'd got this new game. I'd paid money, or at least, my parents had paid money, so I wasn't allowed any more for the month or whatever, right? That was my pocket money gone. So I was pretty sad. Now, the only person in my family who really knew anything about computers was my granddad. So my granddad actually found out that I bought this and that I was sad, and basically it was coming up to my next birthday, and for some reason, I don't know why, but he decided to actually make me a computer. Usually that's at the time, I didn't even know that was possible, right? I didn't know you could even make computers. My brain, when I was a little kid, was like, factories just pump these things out. I didn't know you could just make your own computer. So I worked with my granddad a bit. Obviously, he did all the work. I didn't know what I was doing. But I was really intrigued in what he was doing, putting it all together, what the different parts did. I'd never even seen the inside of a computer, at least not consciously. So we basically made the computer. It's all him, but yeah, I'm gonna say we made the computer, and it could run Skyrim, and I was amazed, and I was so thankful for it, and I played the hell out of Skyrim. Skyrim was my first proper game, I guess, and after Skyrim, after I completed it a few times, or maybe once or twice, I don't know, I looked into the Creation Kit, which is a mod toolkit for Skyrim. It's not really for mods, but it's more just for adding content with the current things in the game, so you can basically make your own dungeons and just shove them in the world, reusing enemies that are already in there and NPCs. You can write your own dialogue and stuff, and it was just basically a delve into game development without any coding. All the tools are already made, you're just using those tools. Okay, so after completing Skyrim once or twice and messing around with some mods, it came to my mind about how do these people make mods for Skyrim? They don't work for Bethesda, how do they get access to this? And I found out online on Steam there's the Skyrim Creation Toolkit or something where they basically give you the game development tools to add new content. So I messed around with that, and I made some NPCs, some dialogue, some quests, a dungeon with some traps and enemies, and it was pretty fun. Obviously there was no coding involved there, but it still sparked my interest into game development, wondering how do you make a game? So from there, I obviously looked up on Google and YouTube, how to code, because I found out that you had to code to make games, and I didn't even know what that meant, really. Just, how to code. And I probably got shown some C++ videos, I think, or some just coding videos. And even then, if you're starting as a 12-year-old in coding, C++ probably isn't the best to go for. I know there'll be some people in comments saying, well, when I was 12, I started with C++, but still, it's a bit intimidating for a young kid to just see some code. Even if it was simple Python, it'd still be a bit confusing to see, when you haven't witnessed coding before. It's like, what's this? How does this make a game? That's too complicated. I probably looked up, how to make a game engine, which is, even too much for me right now. A game engine is a big dedication. But anyway, that was basically it. After I found out, well, this is too difficult, I just gave up and played more Skyrim and, Minecraft and other games and whatever. And that was it for then. So I was like, okay, one thing I must do for my A-levels, you have to pick 3 subjects at least. You can do 3 or 4. I had to pick computer science, but our school didn't have it. So I moved school. I moved to a local school that had computer science, and I took computer science for A-level, which some people said I probably shouldn't have done because everyone else in my class had already done it for the last 2 or 3 years, and I hadn't. So I had a pretty big disadvantage at the start. I turned up, introduced myself, the teacher, whatever, and he wasn't saying, you're going to fail. He was just kind of it's a bit, ill-advised to start here because it's going to be a lot of catch-up work, right? So I knew I wanted to learn computer science. So I super keen, like I worked really hard to like, learn the basics, catch up to where everyone else in the class was. And in that time, I learned Python because the school, we learned Python at school. And then in my own time, I was like, ultimately, I want to, learn game development from all this. So I looked up, what language do you use game development? And you'll pretty much always be met with C++ or C#. And at the time, I looked at Unreal Engine, and it was very intimidating. Unity had a lot more of a, beginner-friendly look to it, and I was a beginner, so I definitely went with Unity. And then I found Brackeys. I'm sure you all know Brackeys. He's pretty much the biggest Unity YouTuber. And his tutorials are very beginner focused. I'm not trying to say they're bad, but obviously like they're very helpful for beginners, right? You'll find some channels that are more catered towards intermediate users. So, if you're going to start off, Brackeys is pretty good. Blackthorn Prod is very beginner friendly. There's a lot of beginner friendly Unity YouTubers who can help you, get interested. And that's where I got interested in Unity. So I was like, well, if I'm going to learn Unity, I have to learn C#. So along Python at school, I was teaching myself C# at home and Unity. And it was still very difficult because I was pretty new to it all. So I ended up buying some courses on Udemy for game development from Ben Tristram and whoever else he was working with at the time, because he usually does partnered tutorials on the courses, and they're usually about like £10 or like $15 or whatever. So I bought a few of those, and over the next like half a year to a year, I worked through them all, and I kept referring back to them when I got stuck, and I made some games. And then after I made those games, had to fiddle around with these simple 2D games, simple just click and drag, some few buttons, very simplistic games. I decided I want to make my own game, and as everyone does when they decide to make their own game, they overshoot what they think they can do. So I was like, well, I like RPGs, and I already knew I'd limited myself. I'm not going to try multiplayer. That I didn't even know how to make a single player game. How am I going to make multiplayer? So I said I'm going to make a single player role playing game, and I came up with some ideas. Came up with the story for the game, or at least a simplistic story and idea, and I decided to start making this game. And it was a horrible failure, and I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so I'm just going to basically voice over some of my old videos where I showed off, progress in my game, just so I can, skip to different parts of it to show you. So this is, I think, my most recent video that I did on the game before I kind of gave up with the project. I made this scene where it's like, you got these trees, it's all dark, you've got fog, some like tiles on the floor to step on, this hell sign with the L falling off and so on, because the name of the game was Hell with one L because it's edgy. I had the little inventory, this like demonic circle. If you actually look on the minimap, it's like a pentagram around this door. And then I watched Bracky's video on how to make like a seamless teleport door, and I put my own twist on it. So this is just this essentially like this thin door just in the middle of here, nothing's around. And then when you open the door, you can actually see through to this other room, which is like a little waiting room, like this like office room thing. And you can look through and you can, properly see it. You can only go through one way. If I walk through that way, it doesn't work. And then as soon as I go through the correct way, I'll appear in that office room essentially. And this door's gonna like disappear, right? I think it was really cool, even though it was just like this little thing that I did. I might redo it at some point, but watch now. So if I walk through, it kind of disappears like that, poof. And then I get a quest complete and so on. So I thought it was pretty cool. Now I'm just in this like office waiting room. I'm not going to bother explaining the whole story of what I was going with. I've changed it quite a bit. The 3 clocks at 6 o'clock, so it's 666 for the devil, hell, it's, yeah. I got quite a bit done here, some coffins, some flashing lights in this back room. Okay, so that thing I showed you there was just a bit of the story, I guess, but I also want to show you some of the combat I made. So I made these burger guys, and with the help of my friend, and then I've got these health potions we made so we can pick up, got this bow and sword and so on, and then you can add them to your inventory. From there you can put them on your hotbar. The bow obviously at this point was just kind of stuck through the hand, but it worked. I was just trying to get everything to work. So you can shoot the arrows and they stick into the ground, they stick at the angle they hit. And then I also made it so enemies, when they die, can drop these coins, they can drop ammo, they can drop whatever. They shoot these like flying burgers at you if you're too far away, whereas if they're in kind of melee range, they'll just hit you. So they've got a different attack based on that. At the time, I didn't really know about state machines, so I just had this big long if, if the player's range is this, then do this, and I probably just made everything really badly, essentially. But yeah, you see there, he kind of puts his hand to his burger, to his inside, and grabs it and flings it at you like a frisbee or a boomerang. I thought it was pretty cool. As well as the bow, we obviously had some spells. So for the Void Reach, we ended up making like a hand. So it's like an ender pearl, but it doesn't arc, it just goes off in a straight line. It's in the dark tree. And you can use it to basically teleport and deal damage to things. So you send off this little hand, and then it gets somewhere, and then it teleports you. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm going to just quickly go to a different video where I'm showing off some more spells. Okay, so in this video, I had other spells like the Rock Hurl move. I don't know if you've seen my version of this Rock Hurl thing, but essentially what happens is you aim at the ground, and then this rock comes up out the ground, and then like homes in and smashes the nearest enemy. Now, obviously, this is just showing the melee attack animation, and it goes ranged when you step away from it. So I want to aim at the floor like so, and you'll see that a rock goes up into the air, and it comes back down if there's no enemies nearby. But if there is an enemy nearby, it'll home in and smash on them. Now, I have improved this from when I, first did this video, but I still think the attack was pretty cool. At this point, the rock fragments don't really go anywhere. They just kind of crumble on the ground. I don't know, it's okay. But I just think it was a really cool spell. It looked so brutal like just then when I hit it with that. I had a lot of fun basically making these abilities and stuff. So without further ado, let's move on to the next clip. Okay, now just before I showed you that, I said it was a horrible failure, but I actually kind of take that back, because if you set yourself a project that's too big and out of scope, but you're a beginner, the worst case scenario is that obviously it doesn't get made, but also you'll learn from it, because even though I never published that or never even, got very far with it, I learned a lot. I basically made like a hotbar system, an inventory, some spell casting. It was obviously not the best way to do it. I wrote like a script for every different like little thing, rather than, reusing scripts, composition over inheritance and all that lot. I didn't know best practices at that point, so I just hard-coded everything, and it worked. But to expand upon that would be painful and take a long, long time. So I was pretty happy with what I'd done, but I was like, okay, over that time of making the game, I'd learned lots of new stuff about best practices by like the end of where I gave up. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to start again. So I started a new project with the same idea in mind, but everything I did, better. And funnily enough, I've done that about 2 or 3 times now. And I actually got to a point where I'd made a complete kind of level with puzzles and enemies and quests and stuff. And I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so here I am on one of my more recent versions of the game. So the main menu is definitely a lot better. I know I didn't really show you much of the old one, but there was a glance of it earlier. The menu's much better. I've actually got like settings that do impact the game, like mouse sensitivity and control settings. The game just looks a lot nicer. I got a lot better. Like, all this is by me. In the last one, my friend had helped a bit with some of the models and stuff, but with this one, I've basically redone everything myself. And I made like some crates, fences, the grass, the trees, so on. The enemies, my friend did the concept art for enemies, and then I modeled and animated. I've got like, character equipment with stats. It doesn't look great, but it works, which is obviously, the programmer's motto. It doesn't look great, but it works. I've got like an interaction system. The character, it's third person now, obviously, is the main difference rather than first person. It's over the shoulder, I've got my state machine for the player's movement. The actual player movement stuff and the animating and rigging that I'd never done before, I followed from Sebastian Larg's YouTube tutorial series. He did a few videos on, how to model and animate and rig a character. I followed that because, I had literally no idea what I was doing. And thanks to him, I got this working. My friend was doing some sprites for the UI, but everything modeled is mine. I've reused the icons, but obviously the rest of the UI I've just left blank. So you can have now augments on spells. So for example, the Fire Blast, you can augment to make it bigger, or AoE or arcing instead of just a straight line, and so on. There's like different effects, and I've made 3 for every spell I had. So you can just change between those freely, I guess. And what else did I do? Here's the Rock Hurl, like much improved. Here it is. So you aim at the ground, and then it does a little shake when it comes up, like a camera shake. And then when it reaches its peak, it homes in and it shatters, and the rocks go flying a bit more, and it feels more impactful. Obviously at this point, also enemies die, they have some particle effects. There's lots of different things I did that I just improved on my old version of the game, and that doesn't mean this is perfect, right? There's still plenty of things that could have been improved on and that I am going to improve on. I think the enemies were probably my favorite part. The fact I actually managed to set that up all on my own was quite, I was very proud of it. So they obviously have like an aggro range, and if I leave it, they go back to their start. Here it is, it's waddling towards me, it stops, it shoots its attack, it calculates like the arc it needs to shoot the projectile at to hit me. Obviously it's very easy to play against. If you had tons firing at you, then it's a bit harder. I think the projectile looks alright. It's probably, I'm no good at particle effects. I'd say that's probably like one of the better particle effect things I've done, is for the enemies like back, where it shoots the fire from. Also, I've got the quest here, like testing quest, 1 out of 1, capsule dude slain, 1 out of 2, limbo enemy, 01 slain. I didn't have names for them at that point. That's just a test one, but for the other one, it tells you now in the bestiary I had, how many of each enemy you've killed, and then if you've killed enough, you unlock stats about them, or their names and descriptions and lore. Channeling, the spellcaster thing that's flying beside me, it's pretty hard to see there. But this thing is what fires the spells rather than me, which means it looks cool, and I don't have to bother with casting animations because it just fires it out of there. I have to do particle effects, but no, like channeling, standing still, and so on. And then at some point, I decided to take it and try and create an actual level. So I made, using Polybrush, this like little zone. I also modeled some pillars and basically made this area with a quest you can go through. I'm going to skip through it, obviously. We have like a wall of flames here. Then we've got an NPC at the back. You can interact with that NPC to get his quest. And it's the spellcaster, essentially. And then when you've done his quest, you get the spellcaster as a companion. So you can't cast spells right now. When you've done the certain quests, like such as killing these enemies, got damage numbers. When you kill them, XP flies at you. Items drop with different rarities and they float and stuff. And then you can pick up these items. When you're near them, it shows like on a pop-up window. Oh, yes. Also, I made the really cool fading shader. That was probably one of my favorite things as well. These keystones you can pick up. Go back to the NPC, and now he's following you. You can do spell stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. Here's a door. I made this little animation with a door, so the gems go into the slots if you've got all of them, and the door goes down. You walk into this room, this flame wall appears, and then you see a puzzle, and each rock kind of lights up to indicate, this one, and this one, and this one. And if you step on the wrong one, it shatters and you die, essentially. Then each time you go back, it's a new randomly generated pattern, but it's always possible. It always picks a rock that's either on the left or the right. You can't get one on the far right and then one on the far left. You can't make that jump. So I think I'll show in a second. Yeah, going across them. Oh no, you got the wrong one. It shattered. You died. And then you respawn at the start of the room and go again. It's a new pattern. So I think that was pretty cool as well. I also made a maze, and some of the maze walls went up and down depending on like whether you'd killed these enemies in the side rooms yet. So you also got the bow from here as well, if I remember correctly from when I did this. Yeah, acquired basic bow, so now you can use the bow. I had a visual problem, as you can see here, where the player's spine just kind of like bent to the side. It's just 90 degrees to the side. I can't remember why that happened, but I fixed it eventually. And I don't think I actually show right at the end. Oh no, I do. So you get to the end, you go up these stairs, and then there's a boss fight, but I don't do the boss fight at this point because it's the one thing I hadn't made at that point was the boss fight. You can actually go get this game. I'll link it down below if I can go find it myself, actually, to play it in its state that I was showing you in this video, but also with the boss fight. So yeah, that's it for my game's progress here. Okay, so that's kind of like my main passion project I've been working on that I've just been showing you. So as well as that, I've obviously been working on other smaller projects. So I've been working on the ones for the videos. Obviously, I've done a lot with the videos. And on stream, I'm currently developing a roguelike game from scratch in 2 months, basically. I'm currently, at the start of the second month or the end of the first month or whatever. And what I plan on doing after that is just continuing with more games. So every 2 months I plan on doing, a new genre of game just to get more experience with the different genres. And as well as that, I've also made a few other games in the past that aren't my, main passion project game. So I'm going to show you those now as well. So one of those games I was on about a minute ago was the Crossy Road game I made, the clone I made on stream. I did it in a total of 3 hours. I made this Crossy Road clone. So at the end, obviously, it looks like this. It wasn't a completed game, but you could basically go down these roads. Vehicles came, they'd kill you if they hit you. You can hop across these logs on the river. And to be honest, oh yeah, there we go. There were some bugs, like for example, I had some problems like attaching the player to the log so they'd move with it. It worked, it just had some problems. I think I ironed them out in the end, but there's still definitely some bugs in general. Like one time I got hit by one of the vehicles and I just didn't die. I just kind of kept living. I think it happens right now. But yeah, you can go check out that live stream if you want to see how I made this game. It's obviously not made as well as it can be, and I just made all the art there on the stream. And wait, see the player kind of stretched there when you rotated off the side. It was just kind of funny. It was a good little project to just think, how do you do this like procedural level stuff? So at the start, obviously, I spent most of the time trying to do the procedural level and like how to hop between the different bits. And then later on, I spent a bit of time actually making like some trees in this voxel editor thing just to use for the different like streets and different fields and roads and water, for example. And obviously I made it so the water can have logs, whereas the road can have cars and the grass has nothing, for example. So yeah, I hope you check this out. I mean, it wasn't like the most like well-written thing ever, but it worked, and I was pretty happy with it actually, considering it's literally just 3 hours. You can make a prototype like this for a game. Obviously, there's no like character selection or like unlocking system or progress. You just kind of get to the end and die or not, and if you die, nothing happens. It just stops. So I could have definitely done more with that, but yeah, go check out that video. I can put that link down below as well. And then obviously one of the other things is the game I've been working on my live streams. So if you haven't been watching my live streams, I've got the link to my Twitch down below. Obviously go drop a follow, sub, it would mean a lot. But I've been working on this roguelike game. So obviously I started it, I've done it all on stream, where I've been making a roguelike where you can pick characters and you have like your score, you have different weapons, you can kill enemies. When you die, you start again from scratch like a roguelike. I'm still yet to add more like weapons and items, but it's like a procedurally generated level where all the rooms are attached together. When you die, it says, you know, who you were, which character you'd played, and so on and so forth. The code isn't as good as it can be. I'm currently working on the boss room and trying to get the game actually working so you can press play, go through, do floors, kill bosses, die or don't die, I guess, and get to the end and, you know, you win, this is your score, so on. Or this is the time you took to do it, you know, so people can speedrun it or whatever. That's what I've been working on. So if you want to go check that out, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm not used to streaming coding and stuff, so I might code, you know, faster or slower on stream. I would say slower because I'm, well, I'd say faster, but not as good code, because I'm, you know, rather than taking my time to think about it, I'm too worried about, you know, people on stream getting bored. But here you can see the level generation, where we have like the different rooms with teleporters like linked together, and like it's randomly generated every single time. With, you know, me having some control over the randomness, so there's always a boss room, there's always a spawn room, and so on, and like there's always between 15 and 20 rooms, for example. But I've got all those in a scriptable object settings file, so like someone can come along and be like, you know, for the next floor, I want it to be between this many rooms, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a pretty good project to, like, you know, get interested and get started in game development if you want to like watch the full development of a game like that. Yeah, go check that out on my stream. All the VODs are here, so you can go onto videos and watch them all there. So yeah, I hope you check that out too. Okay, and one last thing that I will recommend for newer viewers, or anyone actually that is into game development, is take part in game jams, because game jams are one of the main ways you can, you know, get experienced with game development, you know, work in a time limit and just get used to, you know, doing everything yourself, because you might fall into the pit of like, oh, I want to, you know, do some coding, I'm just going to go grab someone else's icons, someone else's sound effects and so on. But most game jams have the rules of you have to make everything yourself, which means that obviously people don't expect your stuff to be as good, right? You can have bad sprites, bad audio, but if you do it yourself, at least you get experience with the workflow of, you know, if I was working in a team with people doing audio, you know, how would it be for them, you know, making the audio and then sending it to me and me sorting it out in Unity and setting it all up and putting it in. You want to get used to the whole workflow yourself so you understand what it's like to work with other people doing those jobs. So I've currently only taken part in one game jam because I've been busy with school, but coming up at the end of next month, there is the game jam that Brackies, Danny, Blackthorn Prod, Jabrils and Saiku, I think, are all hosting. I think I got everyone there, I hope so. They're hosting a game jam that is 1 week long, and I'm going to be streaming every day for that. And there's also Ludum Dare 45, if I remember correctly. It's coming up at the end of October, or it's sometime in October anyway. And I'm going to be taking part in that as well. That's a weekend one for 2 days, but this one coming up at the end of next month is for 1 entire week. I just, you know, recommend you to take part in it. You'll get given the theme at the start. Everyone works on the same theme, and you've got to come up with some, you know, wacky idea for the theme. And then you can use any game engine, I think, as far as I'm aware, and you just got to start from scratch and make a game. So, you know, your code's not going to look as perfect as it would if you worked on it for a few years, but the whole point is, you know, can you make a fun game in a short amount of time? That's, you know, it's a big community aspect, right? You get to share your game with other people. You get to look at what other people have made in that time. Maybe ask them, you know, how did you do that? Or, you know, just start learning. It's a really good way to learn. Okay, now, I know the people who organize the competition aren't going to be watching this video. I don't know how they'd managed to find it, considering they're kind of way out my league in terms of subscribers in the game development scene on YouTube. But if any of you are, I just want to say thanks for what you've done, because if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have had the inspiration to like start a game development tutorial channel myself, or really get into game development. Brackeys was the main reason I actually got into game development in Unity. I'm sure I would have probably done Unity anyway, because I was a bit intimidated by Unreal Engine. But he was the main YouTuber that got me started on loads of beginner tutorials. There's the how to like the game where you are a cube going down a slant and you're dodging things. You got score and a menu and a like game over screen or whatever. Like even that simple game taught me quite a lot about how to do a basic game loop and stuff, and input, movement, game over, score, all these different things that I didn't know how to do beforehand. And then obviously the other lot, like Blackthorn Prod, just the art and style of his videos. I'm no good at 2D art. I'm not even going to try and do anything like he's doing, but it just showed me how like one person can make a game look so good just as an indie developer. And then there's all the others like Saiku. I'm in Saiku and Bracky's Discord server. I might actually go join like all the people's Discord servers that are in this jam, just go and like talk to people in here, see what they're up to, maybe post screenshots and stuff during the jam or whatever goes on. I'll have to stay in touch with that. I'm going to link you guys in the description below, the link for the jam. I highly recommend you take part in it. I hope you enjoyed this video, the like roller coaster of how I started to where I am now. So from now on, really, the future is just, keep making games, keep making content, teaching you guys new things that I learn, how to do things in Unity. Maybe one day I'll start doing some Unreal Engine videos as well, because I've been learning that in my own time on the side. I don't know it as anywhere near as I do Unity, but I think a lot of people would still like, it's good to try other game engines, right? It's good to, test the waters, see what does Unreal do better than Unity, what does Unity do better than Unreal, and Godot and Game Maker and so on. All these different engines are good at their own thing in some way or another, right? Like if you want to make a 2D game and you want to use visual scripting, then you can use an add-on for Unity, or you can use Unreal has visual scripting, or you can use Game Maker. That's more beginner friendly for that. It really depends what you want to make. Obviously my content is going to be Unity still, but I hope you do like try different game engines just to see what there is. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. One last thing I'd like to mention at the end that I usually mention at the start is these videos wouldn't be possible without the help of my patrons. The link is down below for Patreon. If you want to help support me on social media instead without having to pay any money, then all those links are down below to my Twitter, join the Discord server, all those are down below. But yeah, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed this different style of video. If you did, let me know what you thought about it. Let me know what you want to see in upcoming videos. I'm going to get back to the RPG series after this. If you come up with any ideas for like independent videos, feel free to leave those down below and I can, fit those in between the series videos. But yeah, thanks for watching. It means a lot that you, stuck around to the end. Thanks for watching and goodbye.